Hey everyone, it's your boy, Big Fish, the world's best draft league player, as you know, not even a competition, I'm just leagues ahead of everyone, and welcome back to another draft league. Now, you may notice this one ain't starting on the poker pace. No, this ain't no week one, baby. This is the draft breakdown right here. We are going from square one. Now, this is GBC Season 2. I'm a mod in this league owned by other big man like Farmer. And yeah, the competition's going to be tough this season. Last season, I had the luxury of not knowing fucking anyone. This season, I don't get that luxury. I actually do recognize a couple people in there now. And yeah, they're all better than me at the game. So this can only go perfectly. 9-0, no losses, clean sweep playoffs. Or actually, it's me, so clean season, 9-0, and then lose week one of playoffs, because that's how it always goes for me. But let's just jump right into it. So my original plan was to pick Entei, Duraludon, and Archeops, and then build from there. And then Duraludon went, for whatever reason, 14-point Pokemon. I didn't expect it to go in round 1. It went pick 3. So there was someone else who really wanted Duraludon, so it disappeared, and I was at a loss. I was like, what do I do now? And so I just took the best Pokemon there, in my personal opinion, and I picked up Starmie for 19 points. We have a 95-point budget, so it's a bit smaller than most leagues, but yeah, we got that 95-point budget. So I picked up Starmie for 19 points. Now, why do I think Starmie is one of the best Pokemon in the format? It's very Dragapult-esque. It's not going to give you the same amount of raw damage input as the Gallade, or who else is there? Gardevoir, fucking Sandy Shocks even. It doesn't do that same amount of raw damage, but what it does do is be a brilliant utility mon. It learns so much. It has every coverage move under the sun. The only kind of move it would like that it doesn't own is a ground move. But even so, like, you're still hitting probably nearly every single Pokemon in the game for at least neutral with some kind of reliable move. So I think that's massive for it. It does get boosting moves. It gets Calm Mind. You can run Power Herb, Meteor Beam, which is kind of techy, kind of funny. I'm a fan of that. But yeah, Calm Mind, Recover, and a big thing with it is it does get Rapid Spin, so you can remove hazards. It's probably the most efficient hazard removal mon in the game. What else would I say about Starmie? It gets pivot too, it gets flip turn, so I thought it's probably one of the best mon in the pool. It's going to be kind of like Dragapult. You look at it on paper and you think, wow, this mon's going to completely eat this week, and then it does nothing whatsoever, and you know what, I've accepted that fate for Starmie. I'm happy with it. So moving on, I thought, you know what, now that I've picked Starmie, I can still use Entei. And then I thought, you know what, I have probably the best water type in the game. I have probably a top 5 physical fire type in the game. Why not finish it off with an Dipling? Yep, Dipling. Who's messaging me? I almost did it twice. Oh my god. Am I okay? I'm not okay. Yeah. Was that thing 13 points? I think it's 13 points. I don't know. So then I finished it off with a very, very good fire type and a very, very good grass type. So I'll start off with Entei. Why have I wanted to use Entei? I wanted to use it last draft league and it got sniped, and here we are back for round 2. We've picked up Entei again. Basically, it hits hard, is fast, and is pretty bulky. I don't know. It's not hard to describe why you want Entei. Its coverage isn't the best, which is helped by the fact that Starmie's coverage is so good. But the one thing Entei does have is its signature move, Sacred Fire, which just forces physical attackers out, which I think is a really good thing. I think being able to force out physical attackers, typically I think if I could have drafted better, I would have paired that with a hell of a lot of special tanks and just forced out the physical attackers, brought in the special guns, and just not let him or her or them or whoever I'm playing against. We don't discriminate. But I wouldn't let my opponent be able to break through. I didn't quite do that. Not to say I don't have a special tank, I do, but it's not quite as it's not quite that clean. But still, forcing out physical attackers is great. It hits really hard. 115 base attack is definitely nothing to scoff at. But last season, of course, we had the Galarian Tauros. Why did I say it? Tauros Blaze, I think, is the... Yep, there we go. I said Galarian. It's not even Galarian, it's Paldean. It's too early in the morning for this. My brain is not here. So, I mean, if we look at the defensive stats, Entei is just better. Entei is just better than the Tauros. Same base speed, but Entei has better speed def. Technically, its defense is lower, but I think 115.85 is better than 75.105. I might be wrong with that. I think really the only difference is like that fighting type makes it a little bit better defensively. But yeah, you get the point. And I think that's a really good thing, because it means Entei isn't forced into that physical offense game. I can definitely run very bulky Entei if need be as well, and get away with it. And Dipplin. Okay, Dipplin's a newer Pokemon. The reason this thing is such a menace is, like, let's just look at its stats. 80, 110, 80 for its defenses. That is outrageous. That is outrageous for a Pokemon that can run Eviolite with the ability Sticky Hold. You're kidding. Like, that thing is just never losing its item, and it's gonna have 80 110 defense, 80 special defense with an Eviolite. You're never killing it. You're never killing it. I believe it should get synthesis. I'll quickly check. Why can't I spell? Oh, what? I'm not allowed to see if Pokemon get synthesis. Fine then. Fuck you. But I believe it should get some kind of healing move. You can also run Leech Seed if you really want. It does get other things. It gets Sucker Punch, as you can see, which can come in helpful. I believe it might get Knockoff as well. Don't quote me. So it's just really good type, Grass and Dragon. Obviously it's very weak to Ice. It has a good chunk of weaknesses, but it also just is super good for Water, Electric, and Grass, which are very common types that you do want to counter. So I think its type is more beneficial than it is negative. I'm willing to sacrifice a weakness to Poison, Flying, and Bug if it means that I get a 4 times resist to Water, Electric, and Grass. You know? Yeah, you know. Why is the document like that? That's me. Okay. Anyway. So on the next pick, I was like, okay. I need a Steel type now. I need my Duraludon replacement. Desperately. and I looked at the steel types, and there's nothing, right? This is low tier. There is no steel types left. I had two options, in my opinion. I had Copper Raja and I had Magneton. And Lord forbid those are gone, because then I'm having to pick fucking Kling Clang. No thanks, I don't want to pick fucking Kling Clang. So I was like, okay, I'll pick up the Magneton right now. It was 10 points. So I picked up the Magneton, and we had 38 points left over. And so Magneton's great. It's some great special offense now. Not to say that that Starmie or Dipplin are bad specially offensively. Their stats are actually pretty decent, but they're nothing. They're nothing brilliant, right? Like, they're not hitting as hard as Entei is physically. So the Magneton is here to be a good special threat now. Probably won't be running Eviolite, but again, it's defensive 95 and 70 for defense and special defense. Isn't that bad? You can probably get away with an Eviolite if there's like a big bad poison type coming to steal your life. Bloody, I don't know, what's a good poison type? Big bad Petrunts coming to rob me of my life, and Magneton can probably deal with it with an Eviolite. Don't quote me on that. 50 and 70 aren't that good, but you get the idea. But no, the big thing Magneton's going to be doing is probably running Scarf or Specs and just hitting off Volt Switch spam. There's not many things that want to come into that. Ground types, basically it. And ground types are already on lock. You got the Starmie, you got the Dipplin. There's a bit of synergy happening there now. Other things that like to come into Magneton, not much, to be honest. Nothing really likes being Volt switched. Maybe a grass type, but like grass types aren't hitting Magneton back, so I don't know. Flash Cannon still seems kinda good for them. But yeah, Magneton, it's just some good special offense, which is good. I think that's something the team needed. And then after Magneton, I was like, okay, now we have a really good dragon, we have a really good steel. Time to finish out that core, we're going to get a really good fairy, right? And I looked and I was like, okay, I can pick up Mega or Dino at 12 points, and then I'd have a fairy, I'd have a normal type for the ghosts that I don't have anything for at the moment, and I'd also have Wish Passing, which I think Wish Passing is really good. Starmie likes it, so it doesn't have to run Recover. Dipplin likes it, so it doesn't really have to run Synthesis. Magneton likes it. Entei likes it. Wish is just super, super good. Super solid on this team, right? So that's what I'm thinking. And then Dialpo, fellow mod, good mate, decides he wants to steal my fucking Mega Ordino. So now I'm having a Mega Ordealio. You know me, I just threw some slurs at him. He deserved it, the right prick. And I moved on to the next fairy type. And, you know, after that, the fairies, they're kind of dwindling, you know? And I was like, okay, how can I get the same benefits that Mega Ordino would have with something else? And I found that instead I can do this duo. I was pretty confident Kangaskhan probably wouldn't be sniped. I don't think people really understand what Kangaskhan can do. But yeah, it hits super hard, super fast. Well, not super fast, but 90 base speed, nothing to scoff at in low tier. And also very bulky, so it's a toss-up. Am I going to be super offensive, or am I going to be super bulky in any given week? But Alcremie, I was a little bit less confident on its survivability. I thought maybe it was going to be sniped, and lo and behold, it was. So this plan got thrown out the window. And here, that's 2 fairies in a row that had been sniped. So my fairy and then my backup. And yeah, fairies are dwindling now for pick 5. And I'm sat here and I'm thinking, oh, what do I do? What do I do? I need a fairy, and really the only option left was Wigglytuff. Still a normal, still a fairy, still a wisher. It's just not nearly as good as Mega Ordino is. Hence why it cost 4 points less. But that does allow me to put other things in my budget. But first, let's talk about Wigglytuff for a little second. So now we've completed our Fairy Dragon Steel Core. Dipplin, Magneton, Wigglytuff. That is a very formidable duo. That's Dipplin, your big physical tank. Wigglytuff, your big special tank. I mean, it's more of a HP tank, but probably more typically going to be running it specially defensively. And then Magneton, an annoying pivot to be able to get into those 2 Pokemon to be able to wall whatever's on the field. I think that's a really good duo. I think that's super annoying. Wigglytuff also just has good obnoxious moves like T-Wave, Knockoff. Obviously Wish Cleric, as we know. Trying to think, what else does Wigglytuff learn? It does just also have good coverage like Thunderbolt, Surf, Fire Blast, Ice Beam. So like, its 85 special attack is actually pretty good. I don't know if it learns Calm Mind. I don't know if this will let me check if it learns Calm Mind. Oh, it does. Lucky me. It does. So like, I can run physically defensive Wigglytuff as well with Calm Mind, and then possibly get like a sweep going with like Calm Mind, Wish, Moonblast. I don't know if it gets that actually, probably Dazzling Gleam. But like Dazzling Gleam and Fire Blast, similar to what Clefable does in OU and shit. But yeah, something like that, and it can just be really obnoxious to deal with as well. I think Wigglytuff. Of course, it's nowhere near as good as the level of Mega Ordino because of its just pure outrageous bulk. But I still think Wigglytuff is a great pick. Now, there was a Pokemon that I did pick before Wigglytuff, and that was because I figured, hey, if Kangaskhan Alcremie did get sniped, I would still have a backup, but as far as ground types go, I didn't really have a backup for Golurk. Golurk was something that I was going to struggle to kind of back up if it went. Golurk's a fun Pokemon. I don't know how good it is. I've never actually used it. I'm kind of a little bit naive to how it works, to be completely honest. Which I think is both a good thing and a bad thing. On the one hand, not knowing how it works means I'm probably not going to conform into one set every given week. Like, in my brain, I think of Wigglytuff and I think of Wishpasser, right? So I feel like every week when I bring Wigglytuff, it's probably just going to end up being Wishpasser. And I don't like that because, as I just discovered, it does learn Calm Mind and it can be a pretty formidable offensive mon. But I don't know how often I'm going to run it that way when my brain is like configured to think of it offensively. Whereas Golurk, who I haven't used before, I mean, I can obviously see its 124 base attack stat and be like, yes, Iron Fist, Shadow Punch, 124 base attack, find your switch-in, bitch. But, like, generally, I don't think I'm going to use Golurk the same every week. It does have no guard dynamic punch that it can use. I think I can be a little bit annoying here and there. Who is messaging me? Who wants me right now? I mean, who doesn't want me? But yeah, I think Golurk's just a super fun pick. It's a bit slow, but it has decentish bulk, really high attack. I think it's just great support for Entei as a physical threat. Like, obviously Entei's fast, it hits hard, whatever, but it's more of a cleanup mon, in my opinion, because it doesn't have that setup. It doesn't have that setup. It probably wants to, like, just come in late in the game and just pick off the last few threats. I feel like that's what Entei's role is going to be, unless I'm running in bulky, of course. Whereas Golurk, on the other hand, I think is more of an early game threat. Run it with like a choice band, Iron Fist, Shadow Punch, and just completely just break holes in the opponent early in that game. Ground type means I can come in on my electrics. Ghost means I can come in on those fightings and those normals. I mean, other than that, it doesn't really have any resists outside of poison, so I'm blind. There's also bug and rock. I'm also stupid because I could have figured that out if I used my brain. But it's fine. It's whatever. Still, I think Golurk is just really good. It also gets other things like Stealth Rocks. I mean, that's another thing Weekly Tough can do as well. Probably get Shadow Snake. I'm not 100%. I'll find out now. Golurk does not. Okay, it doesn't actually get Shadow Snake. No priority for you, big Golurk. But still, like, yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's a very fun Pokemon to use. I can't wait to use it. And then I noticed this ground weakness here, and yeah, it's not great. We have Magneton with the 4 times weakness, Entei's weak, and basically right now we are fully 100% relying on Dipplin to deal with ground types. So, Piloswine, I hope I never see your face, because I will lose that battle. Anyways, I thought we need a flying type, and I kind of already knew what I wanted my back 2 slots to be. So I was like, okay, I actually have quite a lot of budget for a flying type still, because I only need to fill out 9 Pokemon. So I thought, you know what? This Pokemon that was originally meant to be with Entei and Duraludon still really works here. It's still super, super good. So I picked up Archeops. Now, with Archeops, I feel like everyone always has this opinion about it. They see this ability, Defeatist, and they freak the fuck out, and they go, "Oh no, it's so shit. It's such a bad Pokemon. I have to keep it above 50%, otherwise it's useless." And don't get me wrong, you do have to keep it above 50%, otherwise it's useless. But you have to keep in mind, that's the prejudice against it from like Gen 6. It's got heavy duty boots now if you want. You're not killing it with hazards. And 110 base speed is pretty damn high. If you're just careful with it, having your heavy duty boots and spamming U-turn with 140 base attack is really damn good. Like, even that is like threatening. For a Pokemon that tends to be 7 points, doing that with high speed, high attack is a really fine Pokemon, to be honest. But Archeops is still more than that. It is so much more than that. Because whilst other people shit their pants and try and figure out a way to keep it above 50%, I don't bother with that garbage. I say, I accept. Hey, Archeops, you're going to go below 50% in this game, and you are going to die. Because my personal favourite set is Choice Band Head Smash. You lead with that shit, and, I mean, most teams don't have a good time against Rock. I've never had a good matchup against Rock types. And I look at this shit, and I'm like, okay, sure, you probably have a good ground and a good steel for resist. Archeops doesn't care, it's a flying type, and it gets Earthquake, so, you know, it's pretty alright. But yeah, I can just run that fucking choice banded head smash shit and just tell me where's your switching. That is a 140 base attack mon clicking a 150 base stab move. It's game, bro. Like, yeah, and it's not a move like grass that has like 50 million resists. It's rock. Rock doesn't have resists. It's a brilliant offensive type. So I do legitimately think Archeops is a formidable threat. Even in OU, I think it is a formidable threat. If, like, having a cheap Pokemon that can just come in, and yeah, sure, it's probably going to die after a few turns, but for the few turns it's alive, it's just going to completely eradicate a chunk of your team. I think that's worthwhile. But yeah, here in low tier, I think it's even better. Because now that 140 base Pokemon isn't punching holes in things like Toxapex, which probably can kind of get around it anyway. I think Toxapex is a bad example. Like, I don't know, what's a Pokemon that doesn't really care about Head Smash or Earthquake? Like Bronzong. You do still have to deal with Bronzong here. Actually, it's the best Steel type in the game, other than like okay, maybe not the best, but it's up there. I don't know. I can't think of any, but like, yeah, my point stands. Okay, my point stands. Switching into Archeops in OU, it's doable because there's more Pokemon. In low tier, it's not happening. Archeops is claiming kills, alright? And that's only touching on half of Archeops. You might notice, if you go just 2 slots down, its special attack is also 112. And much like Starmie Meteor Beam, this thing gets it as well. You can still run a 120 base stab special attack that boosts your special attack with the, Power Herb? And then you have this Pokemon that's got a +1 special attack boost, 112 base special attack, 110 base speed. Tell me who wants to switch in. Like, it's not happening. You're claiming kills. Bronzong is probably like one of the only Pokemon in the entire game that actually deals with Archeops. Everything else is being sent to the fucking Shadow Realm. And that's not to mention that Golurk and Entei are also there, punching holes through the team as well. It's a hyper-offensive brutality. And I think Archeops for 11 points is so good. I'd pick it for fucking 19. Okay, maybe not. I have been passing up on Arceus. Yeah, I've been passing up on Arceus for years. I just don't think it's that good. But yeah, I have been passing up on Archeops for a long time. I think I picked it once and then went nah and dropped it. But here I think it's great. Now, I'm just going to put the last 2 Pokemon together and talk about them together. Yes, Wallot. And what? Are we going to have Heavel as well? But yeah, Swallow and Thievel to round out the rest of the team. So you may have noticed I needed a poison and I did need a dark. So here they are. Swallow really just adds that last hint of defense to this team. Sure, I do think Entei, Magneton, Starmie, Golurk can be bulky if need be, but they're not active tanks. They're probably just going to be like, oh, surprise, in any given week. Swallow is a consistent tank, another sticky hold user, which is good, but I'm probably going to run one of the other 2 abilities quite a lot as well. So basically the main thing with Swallow is it gets up T-spikes, it poisons you, basically, that's its whole thing, it poisons you. But it does get moves like Knock. It's just generally pretty annoying. Like 183 is pretty good. I mean, if I'm saying 89 80 80 is pretty good, then yeah, Swalot's stats are definitely good. I don't know, it's kind of hard to like describe how good a 4-point Pokemon is, but I think it's just a really cheap poison type. Like, you can pick your Muck or your Weezing, but why do that when they're like... I think Weezing's like 12 points and Swalot's like 4, you know? It's not as good, obviously, but it's still formidable. Like, it'll still get the job done for really cheap. And the great thing that Swalot has is surprise factor. How many Swalots have you ever fought playing Pokemon? Probably not many. Probably none, even. I don't know if I've ever fought a fucking Swalot. I've been doing this shit for 6 years. So, you know, like, I think it's definitely something that can catch you off guard if you don't know what you're doing. And I think Thievul does the same thing, but even more so. So I did feel very physical. Entei, Golurk, Archeops. Yes, Archeops can be special, but in terms of special threats that I think are really just gonna poke holes, all I really had was Magneton. I mean, yeah, Starmie's there, but that's like low tier drag of fraud. So, you know, I think Thievul's really good because of this ability right here at the bottom. If you don't know what a Thievul is doing, you're probably just gonna be like, oh yeah, I switch out here, you know? You're probably not gonna think too much of it. Like, I come in on your Psychic type, you think, gotta switch out. You switch into like your Fairy type, but then your Fairy type takes like a clean choice specs plus stakeout, right? And you look at the calc and you're like, that is so much more damage than I thought was gonna come to me. And I think that's a really good thing that Thievul can do. Like, it's a cheap dark type, right? It's 5 points. It's not going to be too crazy. I mean, it gets annoying things like it can parting shot on you and stuff. But for the most part, you're probably not really thinking about that. Like, yeah, you're probably not picking Thievul as like a good dark type. But I think what you can do with Thievul is just catch something off guard. Like, again, as I just said, with Stakeout, you're probably not expecting high damage output, but it kinda can put out large damage output when you're not thinking it will. Unburden as well, it can be so much faster than you think it is. Like, you think, 90 base speed, and then all of a sudden, it's got +2. Not that I think that will happen often, probably not on this team either, but like, it's still a potential thing to think about. And when you're prepping for Archeops, Golurk, Entei, Magneton, Starmie, Dipplin, you probably aren't thinking about the Thievul. So I do think it's one of those Pokemon. I think it is the Pokemon on this team that's like gonna come to 1 or 2 games, not really much else. But I'm telling you, those 1 or 2 games that it does come to where it has a really good matchup, you're losing to it. It is going to eat you up. But yeah, that is my draft analysis. This video is probably 10 hours long. I apologize about that. But I do hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble about absolutely nothing for about 20-30 minutes. Can't wait to see you in week 1, where I show you how I completely get my ass kicked by someone who has a better team than me. But they don't really have a better team than me because my team is more funny looking than theirs. And at the end of the day, it's all about fun. That's the real takeaway, kids. Goodbye.